When I turned the key and it wouldn't fit the lock, I told myself I was just tired. I stood on the front porch with my overnight bag cutting into my shoulder, the late afternoon sun pressing against my back, and I tried again. The metal scraped. Wrong angle, wrong resistance. I leaned closer, squinting like the door might explain itself if I looked hard enough. This was my house. I knew the feel of that lock the way you know the weight of your own wedding ring. But it wouldn't turn. It wouldn't even pretend. I remembered the quiet most of all. No traffic, no voices, just the low hum of cicadas and my own breath coming faster than it should have. That's when I noticed the new brass handle, shiny, untouched, not the dull nickel one we'd picked out together 5 years earlier because it was on sale. I stepped back, heart thudding, and stared at the door like it had betrayed me. I had just driven 6 hours straight from hospice, 6 hours of holding my mother's hand while her breathing rattled like loose gravel, 6 hours of watching the woman who raised us fade into something fragile and unfamiliar. I smelled like antiseptic and gas station coffee. My eyes burned, my bones ached, and my sister had changed the locks. Before all of this, before keys stopped fitting and trust stopped meaning anything, my life was quiet in the way people envy but rarely ask about. I worked as a medical billing coordinator for a small clinic. Nothing glamorous. Numbers, codes, patient files stacked neatly in beige folders. I liked the predictability. I liked knowing what came next. After my divorce, routine had felt like safety. The house, our house, sat on a modest corner lot with a crepe myrtle out front that bloomed pink every spring. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a sunroom that caught the morning light just right. It wasn't fancy, but it was solid, brick, honest. The kind of place you could grow old in without noticing. I didn't buy it alone. My sister, Lorraine, had come to me with the idea. She was always the talker between us, the planner, the one who leaned forward when she spoke, palms open, like the world owed her attention. Growing up, she'd been the louder laugh, the faster runner, the one teachers remembered. I was the listener, the note-taker, the one who stayed. When Mom's arthritis got worse, Lorraine suggested we move her closer to town. Together, she said. We'll do this together. She had a credit score that needed help. I had savings but didn't want the burden alone. So we co-signed, joint mortgage, both our names on the paperwork. We sat in that stiff office with its fake plant and framed motivational quotes, signing page after page, while the loan officer smiled like this was a celebration. Lorraine squeezed my hand. "We're building something," she whispered. I believed her. For a while, it worked. We split expenses, took turns with Mom. Sunday dinners became a thing. Roast chicken, overcooked green beans, the same jokes repeated until they felt like tradition. Lorraine decorated loudly. Bright throw pillows, framed quotes about gratitude and faith. I didn't mind. The house felt alive. Then Mom got sick. Really sick. Hospice came quietly, like they didn't want to disturb the truth settling in. Lorraine cried at first, big, heaving sobs that made nurses pause in the hallway. But after a week, she stopped staying the night. After 2, she stopped coming at all. "I just can't watch her like that," she told me over the phone. "You're stronger than me." So I became the one who wiped Mom's mouth, who learned the rhythm of her breaths, who slept in a chair with one ear open, listening for changes. Lorraine would call in the mornings, voice soft, apologetic. "Any changes?" she'd ask. I'd tell her the truth, because that's what sisters do. When hospice suggested Mom might only have weeks left, Lorraine called with another soft voice. "I got offered a short-term work contract, out of state. I can't say no to this money, not with the house and all." I didn't want to argue. I didn't have the energy. So when Lorraine asked me to stay with Mom full-time to hold things down, I said yes. I packed a bag, I kissed the crepe myrtle's peeling bark on my way out, and locked the door behind me with that familiar nickel handle, and told myself this was what family looked like, sacrifice without keeping score. Hospice has a smell people don't talk about, a mix of bleach and something sweeter underneath, like wilted flowers. The days blurred together. Time became measured in medication schedules and shallow breaths. Mom would wake up sometimes, eyes searching, calling us by our childhood nicknames. "Where's Rain?" she asked once, voice thin. I said, "She's working. She loves you." Mom smiled like that was enough. Lorraine visited once, stood at the foot of the bed, checked her phone more than Mom's face. She hugged me stiffly before she left. "We'll talk when this is over," she said. "About the house, about everything." I didn't know then how much weight that sentence carried. When Mom passed, it was quiet. No dramatic last words, just a long exhale and a stillness that felt heavier than sound. I sat there long after the nurse left, holding a hand that was already cooling, thinking about how we used to braid each other's hair in the kitchen. I called Lorraine. She cried again, this time sharper, more panicked. "I'm so sorry you had to do that alone," she said. "Come home, we'll figure things out." So I drove back, grief folded into the passenger seat beside me, expecting the familiar comfort of my own front door. Instead, I stood on the porch with a useless key and a sinking feeling I couldn't yet name. I knocked. Once, twice, no answer. That's when I noticed the small envelope taped to the window. My name was written in Lorraine's careful, looping handwriting. I peeled the envelope off the glass with fingers that had started to shake. The tape pulled away with a soft rip, too loud in the quiet. Lorraine's handwriting looked the same as it always had. Rounded letters, careful spacing, the kind of writing that suggested patience even when the person lacked it. Inside was a single sheet of printer paper. "We need to talk. Please don't make a scene. Call me." No apology, no explanation, just a request, a warning, really. I stood there for a long moment, the paper fluttering slightly in my hand, and tried to breathe past the tightness in my chest. The house behind the door felt suddenly foreign, like it had turned its back on me. My suitcase tipped over at my feet, spilling out a black cardigan or a pair of socks. I stared at them like they belonged to someone else. I called Lorraine. It rang 4 times before she answered. "Hey," she said, too brightly, "you're back already?" I said, "I'm standing outside." My voice surprised me, steady, almost calm. "Why doesn't my key work?" There was a pause. I could hear something in the background, a television, laughter, not mine. "Let's not do this right now," she said. "You've been through a lot. You're emotional." I closed my eyes. "Lorraine, why can't I get into my house?" Another pause, longer this time. I changed the locks. The words landed gently, like she expected them to be understood. "What did you say?" "It's temporary," she said quickly, "just until things settle." "What things?" I asked, my hand pressed flat against the door, feeling the warmth of the wood trapped in the wood. "Lorraine, my clothes are in there, my bed, my—" "Listen," she cut in, irritation seeping through the softness. "I didn't want to do this over the phone." "Then open the door," I repeated. "I'm not home." I laughed once. It came out wrong. "So whose TV am I hearing?" Silence. Then she sighed, long and practiced. "You can stay at a hotel tonight or a friend's. We'll meet tomorrow." "We?" I repeated. She didn't answer. I hung up before she could say anything else. I didn't cry then. I think my body was still in survival mode, the same place it had been for weeks. I loaded my suitcase back into the car and sat behind the wheel, hands resting uselessly in my lap. I watched the front door, half expecting it to open, half hoping it didn't. I drove to a cheap motel off the highway, the kind with flickering lights and curtains that never quite close. The room smelled like old smoke and lemon cleaner. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall until the sun went down. That night, sleep came in shallow bursts. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that new brass handle, shining like a smile that didn't reach the eyes. The next morning, I went back. Lorraine's car was in the driveway. A man's car, too. I recognized it immediately, her boyfriend, Dale. He'd been around on and off for years. Always polite, always distant. The kind of man who never quite looks you in the eye. I knocked. The door opened just enough for Lorraine's face to appear. Her hair was pulled back, makeup already done. She looked rested. I hated that. "Can I come in?" I asked. She hesitated, then opened the door wider. I stepped inside. The smell of fresh coffee hit me like a slap. My living room looked different. My framed photos were gone. The blue throw blanket from the couch was folded neatly over a chair, replaced by something beige and unfamiliar. Dale stood near the kitchen, hands in his pockets. He nodded at me. "Hey." I ignored him. "Where are my things?" I asked. She gestured vaguely. We moved some stuff around. "Where?" I demanded. "Lorraine, you don't just lock someone out of their own home." Her jaw tightened. "It's not your home." The words hung there, heavy and impossible. "What did you just say?" She exhaled slowly, like she was bracing herself. "I had the deed